Hello and welcome to CheersToFearYT, where you take horror films and turn them into drinking games. We're your hosts. I'm Alex.
And I'm Tucker.
And I'm Snooplax.
When did you get here?
Oh, I let myself in a few minutes ago.
Why do you keep destroying my doors?
On a different note, would you like to help us talk about today's drinking game?
Sure, what movie is it?
It's Click, starring Adam Sandler, directed by Frank Coraci, who also directed other classic horror movies such as The Waterboy and The Wedding Singer.
And it was written by Mark O'Keefe and Steve Corrin, who wrote Bruce Almighty and Evan Almighty. Oh, and don't forget, Steve Corrin also wrote Jack and Jill, one of the scariest movies of all time featuring Adam Sandler.
Oh, I remember Click now. It's a psychological horror trip about a man named Michael that obtains a remote that can bend reality to his will. From there, he goes on a power trip and violently attacks people, such as his boss and a child. The remote starts to take over and fast forwards through time, killing the ones that he loves. It's a pretty chilling movie.
Just a fair warning, there are spoilers ahead, so if you have not yet watched the movie, feel free to pause the video now and watch the movie. Also consider using our drinking rules posted on screen now, just in case you already haven't reached your daily intake of water. If spoilers are not an issue for you, or if you have already seen the movie, let's continue.
So we'll start off the drinking game with our first rule, which is always is death, and it happened 5 times in this movie.
There, I have my water. What's going on? Grandpa died, Dad. He died a while back now.
So I guess there was a few people, but it also was mainly 2 dogs. 2 dogs died in the course of Michael's lifetime.
Yeah, it kind of shocked me that there was this many deaths in this movie, not gonna lie.
Yeah. I mean, it took place over a long period of time, though.
True.
Most movies take place over maybe a year, if
Yeah.
that, but this took place over, what?
A whole lifespan? Oh, well,
Yeah,
later lifespan.
Half a lifespan, we'll say.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I never thought about it that way.
Next rule is scream, cries, or yells, which is 27.
Son of a bitch! Hey! There are families here! Show some respect, you pieces of shit!
Yeah, and this happened a lot of times, and I kind of expected it just because Michael has a talent for making people cry, especially for kids.
Yeah.
Like, he makes a lot of people cry in this movie, and there's a lot of him just being angry and yelling at the world, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm not that surprised that it's a high number.
Yeah, it's especially kids, because you think of like the little Asian boy.
Yeah, twice.
Twice. Or Kevin, or even his kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's move on to the next rule, which is product placement, and anytime you see it, you take a sip. This came to a total of 10 sips.
It honestly seemed like there was more when we were watching the movie. Like, it seemed like they're constantly referencing things, but I guess it was only 10.
Yeah, especially it happens a little bit more when, for example, he's trying to get to Bed Bath & Beyond to find a remote.
Yeah, you see Best Buy, then Staples, and then
Yeah.
Bed Bath & Beyond. There's some cars that are product placement. It happens fairly frequently. Double digits is still a decent amount, I'd say.
Definitely.
But anyways, we'll move on to rule number 4, which is whenever somebody uses a remote. And this happened 34 times in the movie. And just to clarify, we do want to say that this is any remote, not just the universal remote that the movie focuses on, but any remote in the movie.
Yeah, obviously the movie kind of revolves around the remote, but we had to include all remotes, which ended up being quite a few more than we were expecting. 34 is kind of nothing to joke about.
And the next rule is any sex reference, and in Click there was 12.
Yep, it's kind of a staple of the horror genre. It happens in movies like Friday the 13th, I'd say kind of, solidified that trope. So of course we had to include it in the rule in this game.
Definitely.
I swear, like, over half of them were just the dogs, though. Like,
Oh,
it
yeah,
seems like
for
every
sure.
time.
Yeah.
I guess there was also other references like Michael fast forwarding through sex, or even his parents at times, which is kind of weird. But
More weird for him to watch.
oh, definitely. But anyways, let's move on to the next rule. The next rule is whenever something is destroyed, you take a sip, and this came to a total of 5 sips.
Yeah, Michael is a pretty destructive person, He has a lot of anger built up in him.
Oh yeah, and it just exacerbates over the course of the movie, and I guess you can kind of thank his job for that, and his boss. Yeah. That's a main reason, I'd say. The remote also plays a role in that too, and near the end, but definitely his work is what causes that in the beginning.
Yeah, he has a lot of pent-up aggression, just like any other antagonist in a horror movie.
And then we'll move on to this rule, which kind of ties in with the last one in a way. It's whenever Michael neglects his family. This happened 10 times.
Do you think I'll have time to finish building the treehouse ever?
Yeah, Dad. It's kind of been halfway done for 2 months now.
All right. I want to. It's just I got a lot of things going on at work right now. But as soon as I'm done, I'm on it. I promise.
This is kind of the main thing that makes the audience feel something. It's not your typical slasher horror movie or anything like that. It really tries to dig deep for emotions as well. So that's something unique that it brings to the genre, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wants to make you feel bad for the characters that he's kind of harming by neglecting, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Next rule is bodily harm towards somebody, and we have 8.
Yeah, and again, this just kind of shows how angry Michael is and, like, you know, how willing he is to just inflict harm on somebody, even if it is a kid, which, I don't know, it just doesn't look very good for him, honestly.
Speaking of kid, let's move on to the next rule, and that's whenever Michael bullies Kevin, and this came to a total of 4 sips.
Yeah, it's just Michael abusing his power again, like, especially with Kevin. Like, he went pretty insane with him.
Oh yeah, like joking that he was smoking a cigar and saying that it was weed or something like that. It just kind of shows his character arc of kind of Michael abusing his power being like the remote, or like him being an adult over a kid.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even when they were Kevin and his son were playing catch, and then he pauses and moves the glove down so the ball intentionally hits him in the head. It's like, holy shit, you're doing that to a kid?
Yeah, he's kind of a sociopath.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Moving on to the final rule of this drinking game, it's whenever Morty explains something about the remote. And this happened 9 times in the movie.
Yeah, I guess it's revealed later on in the movie, the twist is that he's the angel of death.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean taking him? An angel, Michael. An angel? I thought an angel's supposed to protect people. An angel of death. Your dad. It's his time.
And you could say that there's some people that don't think this is a horror movie, but I feel like this kind of proves it for the most part.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of just shows up out of the blue in random situations. Every time Michael's about to call him on the phone or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he just pops up right then and there. That's just another... It kind of makes you wonder, what is this guy actually? Like, clearly he's not just a regular human being.
Yeah, exactly. Another incident where you can kind of see the foreshadowing of him being the angel of death is just Liz red lighting on his face, so it's a subtle hint to that as well. And obviously there's a couple of jump scares in the movie with him as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. That actually surprised me too, but yeah, there was jump scares.
Get you back here, pal. Gotcha.
In total, the number of sips is 124. This is equivalent to drinking nearly your entire daily water intake if you were drinking half an ounce per sip.
Yeah, so it's just 4 sips shy of that, the daily water intake recommended. Mm-hmm. I guess they recommend 64 ounces, so yeah, it's quite a bit of water, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite a bit of water. So if you want to stay healthy, you gotta watch this movie, I guess.
Yep, exactly. And really the 2 main rules that gave us a lot of drinking was screams, cries, and yells, and a remote being used. So those were our 2... I think those 2 alone gave us over 50 sips, so that's quite a bit just from 2 rules. So clearly they were the hard hitters in this movie.
I'd say so.
Yeah, overall it's a pretty underrated horror movie, and like I think like a lot it's a horror movie almost for the whole family. You know, I remember watching it when I was a little bit younger. It could almost be considered like a gateway horror movie, kind of like Hotel Transylvania.
Yeah, and even like Goosebumps, for example, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny you mentioned Goosebumps because there was actually almost a lawsuit over it. There was an episode of Goosebumps called Click where it had kind of a similar storyline in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the storyline was pretty much a kid gets a remote and is able to freeze time, pause time, rewind, anything like that. Mm-hmm. And the whole time it's just like, don't abuse his power, which he ends up doing and gets basically shipped off into like a dimension that's just full of nothingness. Mm-hmm. So he freezes his family. There's a guy that acts like Morty. Like, it's pretty verbatim. But I think for the most part at the end of the lawsuit, they just kind of figured that it was just all a big coincidence.
Yeah. Okay. That's crazy coincidence, though.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty big coincidence for sure. And whenever we talk about people that are up and coming in the horror industry, we say people like Ari Aster, more like Adam Sandler, because he's kind of killing it recently.
A lot of Adam Sandler movies made by Happy Gilmore Productions are great horror movies. Like, you got Grown Ups, Hubie Halloween, Murder Mystery, Little Nicky, where he's the devil's son. I don't even have to go into the details of how scary Jack and Jill is.
Oh, definitely not. Jack and Jill somewhat reminds me of Split, if you guys have ever seen Split. Just kind of like this split personalities, one person playing multiple actors. Quite a thrill fest in that one as well.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, we'll move straight on to Click itself and talk a little bit about that. Honestly, first thing I want to say, it's a horror masterpiece.
Oh, definitely.
Arguably one of the top horror movies in the 2000s.
Yeah, I think it really changed the game for 2000s horror for sure.
Definitely.
This movie slowly uncovers Michael's full descent into madness. It honestly kind of reminds me of The Shining with Jack.
Oh yeah, how it kindly is a really slow build up to the person going insane. Definitely, I feel like that.
Yeah, and Adam Sandler does a great job, as always, portraying that madness. You know, as we mentioned before, he's always angry in this movie, and he does a good job of escalating it throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, all the actors are really good, like Christopher Walken does a great job, but I feel like Adam Sandler kind of seals the show. You kind of start to feel for him for the most part. His boss is working him really hard, and that makes him kind of neglect his family and thinks like, this is best for my family, but in doing so, it kind of pushes his family further away from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the end, you can kind of see the unjust actions from Michael's point of view, especially consider that he was pretty poor growing up, even if you look at like that camper scene where they had the tent and
Yeah, and then all the other families had like the RVs and stuff. So like he kind of felt like he needed to prove himself and try to make, you know, as much money as possible, because that's the sign of success and stuff, and ultimately just pushed his family to the edge, and you know, they ended up leaving him in the end. But
yeah. And I guess that's the other example. Like, he kind of instilled these morals onto his kids. So, for example, his son Ben tries to skip his honeymoon because he has a work-related obligation. We didn't really see much with Samantha, though, however. We had, like, maybe 2 scenes of Michael just telling her to put clothes on, but we had a much better few scenes with Ben, for sure.
we got to know Ben as a character, as an adult, a lot more than Samantha. Samantha, all you get to know is that she's a good-looking woman, and that's all they kind of focus on.
Yeah.
So I wish they kind of focused a little bit more on her character development and what she was like as an adult, but yeah, we didn't get that. We also don't know for sure if Ben ended up skipping his honeymoon. Obviously, Michael told him not to because family comes first.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm pretty sure Ben's going to be going to a funeral instead of his honeymoon now.
You're probably right.
Another thing, the fast forwarding in the movie is just ridiculous. We see him just skip significant parts of his life. And I mean, the fact that he doesn't remember anything too.
Yeah, the
that
parts
was
that he skipped.
Yeah, like that was kind of insane. It's like I like to miss that much and to want to fast forward and miss things, you know?
I know, it's crazy.
It's
like,
genuinely horrifying.
Yeah.
Well, he fucking skips through at least 1 year for the first promotion that he got, and then the second promotion where he became CEO, it skipped what, like 10 years?
6 years, 10 years. It skipped a large
It's
portion.
crazy how much time he just skipped over.
It's kind of similar to the movie 50 First Dates in a sense.
Oh,
where
yeah.
they don't remember what's going on.
Where they don't remember what's going on. Another Adam Sandler movie.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure made by Happy Madison as well.
I think so.
Probably is.
And one thing about this movie that I think it's worth pointing out is you kind of see the stages of grief at play with the remote. So first is denial, and we see Michael denying the remote's existence. Like, he goes back to Morty and say, "Oh, where are the cameras? Why are you guys pulling a prank on me?" All that. And then it leads to anger, which obviously we see throughout the whole movie. He's angry. He's angry at his boss, taking it out even on his son, Ben.
Pizza boy, life ain't about being creative. It's about kissing ass, playing it safe, making your boss a lot of money, and hopes one day he might throw you a stinking bone. All right?
And just so many examples of anger in this movie.
And you can even kind of see, like, bargaining a little bit, where he tries to get back together with his wife, and, like, have, like, the little note that they had from their first date or whatever. Tried to do that whole shtick. He knew it was kind of his trump card for whatever his wife left him. I don't know.
Well, and also with bargaining, he had this. You have that scene where he's talking. He was about to call Morty, and then he calls him. Morty just randomly appears, like we mentioned, and he's trying to bargain with Morty, like, take the remote. I don't want it anymore. This is not what I expected with it. Blah blah blah. You know. So that's another scene where he's trying to bargain to get rid of it.
Yeah. The next one, obviously, depression, and I think that one is pretty obvious as how sad it gets at the end of the movie.
Oh, yeah,
that one's
definitely.
pretty instilled. You don't even really have to justify that one at all.
Not at all. Once you see that once he learned that his dad died, it just hit so hard, and like you could see just immediately he kind of just went into that stage, you know.
Yeah. And last stage obviously being acceptance. This can be considered the remote is not what he wants, but I feel like he knew this a little bit more. So for example, acceptance, he kind of accepted his death, which is why he ran out in the rain. So that kind of, I feel like symbolized acceptance.
And then even the last scene in the movie where you know, the remote's back on his counter, and it's a little note like, good guys deserve a second chance or whatever, and then he just throws the remote away, doesn't want anything to do with it. That's another acceptance where he doesn't want anything to do with the remote. He accepted the fact that he doesn't want to skip through life, and, you know, he kind of learns his lesson.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was kind of interesting to see how those stages play out in this movie.
So, Snooplax, what did you think of the movie?
It was fantastic. One of the best horror movies of the 2000s. Like, I've always told you guys about how I always thought of Click as my favorite horror movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost made these guys do this review. I was like, you guys have to do Click, and if you're doing it, I'm coming on. It's my personal favorite.
Oh, yeah. Like, it has pretty much everything. Like, it's dramatic, scary, makes you think, makes you cry. It has really all the good elements of a good horror movie.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I especially like we talked about the stages of grief. I like that you're able to see that play out through the whole movie, and, you know, you get to see Adam's descent into madness and go through all of those stages as well. And it was very interesting character study, too, on Michael and, you know, how his life was affected. And, yeah, overall, like you guys said, it was a great horror movie. So with that being said, I'll just move right along to the award ceremony, where we award one not-so-lucky nominee, the Darwin Award. This award goes out to the character who made a stupid decision that resulted in them getting killed, somebody else getting killed, or simply resulting in something bad happening that could have easily been avoided. This award can also be given to a character who is just plain dumb. Here are the nominees.
Today's first nominee is Michael for using the remote, which cost not only his own life, but his father's as well.
Next up is Michael's boss, Mr. Ammer, for causing Michael so much stress to the point where he would physically assault his boss.
And lastly, we have Kevin O'Doyle, for constantly antagonizing an adult that has power over him and is mentally unhinged enough to make Kevin's life miserable.
And the winner is Michael. He wins the Darwin Award for many reasons, but for mainly abusing the power of the remote, despite the consequences that may come with it.
And with all that being said, we hope you enjoyed our episode on Click. If you enjoyed playing the drinking game alongside the movie, or if you have any other feedback or suggestions, let us know in the comments below. Also, once again, we would like to thank Snooplax for making this video with us, as this could not have been done without him. So make sure you show him some love and support and check out his channel.
And make sure to like and subscribe to our channel as well, so you don't miss the next week's episode, where we are going to be making a drinking game for Fried Berry. If you want to check out our most recent video, click on the box on the top right, or if you want to see a playlist of all the drinking games and movies we review, click on the box below it. Thanks for tuning in, and this is us saying,
Cheers to fears.